next episode. Obviously, Trey was done 12 months ago in the last episode. Since then, I've actually installed the camshaft in the ute. This episode, I'll take you through what I did there. It's we end up putting in a second-hand comp 222, 224 at 112. Used camshaft that I got off one of my mates. Had stuff for use. Straight away, he thought it was too small, so lucky for me, I picked that up for nothing. He gave it to me, so I thought, you know what? Let's put it in the tunnel. Let's try and give it some lope. And realistically, even if it doesn't lope that hard, you know, we can always tune a little bit of ghost tune in it. But with nearly 600 thou lift and, you know, mid-20s duration, it's definitely gonna make more power and move peak torque. So I think I'll go through that in the clips. But yeah, second-hand cam, and we're not taking the heads off. We're gonna put the camshaft in there with the heads, and the lifter's still in place. So let's not stuff around. I think the first clip, front bar's already off. We get stuck into it. So yeah, have a look, see what you think. All right, that front bar's off. Top intercooler pipe, obviously. Battery, radiator, air conditioning condenser. Nothing serious. Took the belts off already. Yeah, ready to take all the water pump bolts off. Well, that was like 10 mil. Maybe a couple of 13, 14s there for that tensioner, and get that water pump off. Water pump's off. I had to get rid of this idler pulley to get to the bolts on the water pump. But yeah, pretty simple. It'll be the harmonic balancer off next, but I need my rattle gun to get that crank bolt out. It's too late tonight to fire up the compressor. The neighbours will be pissed. So they'll have to wait until the morning. But it'll give a chance for the floor to dry anyway with all the coolant. I mopped up. I actually used a little Makita blower and blew inside the block to get as much water out as I can. That way I can start up tomorrow morning, everything's nice and dry. But yeah, tomorrow morning, crank pulley off, harmonic balancer off, get that timing case off. We'll get through that. But I did take the catch can off as well. And you know, it's not a lot, there's a bit of moisture in there, but it does run full time E85, but far out. I think the last time I emptied this catch can was just before I went on the Father's Day cruise, probably far out 4 years ago. So yeah, it doesn't collect a lot, it collects stuff all, but I thought, oh, I'll get it out of the way and give it a clean out anyway. This is the back of the water pump. I'm pretty sure, like, in the car, the water was coming out from under here somewhere, or behind here, running along here and dripping. That's where I could see it from on the hoist. Just throw a new water pump on it. It's done its work. And yeah, we'll probably get back into it tomorrow. Had to use a bit of WD-40 and a bit of heat from the heat gun on that bolt, harmonic balancer bolt. Got the rattle gun fired up, managed to rattle it loose. That's a 24 mil socket for that one. That bolt's now 1000 degrees, so started taking core packs off and 10 mil bolts, get the core packs off, got to get the rocker covers off because obviously we've got to pull the rocker gear off and the push rods out. Righto, excuse the mower in the back, the wife's going hard. The rocker covers are off. 8 mil bolts to take the rocker covers off, and then 8 mil bolts to undo your rockers. And then I don't even undo them all the way, just leave them loose and just move them over a bit so you can get in there and get your fingers in there. I need 2 hands, but you get your fingers in there and pull all the push rods out. The reason why I leave them in there is leave the rockers in there because what's the point in removing them and getting them dirty? I'm going to put the covers back on and cover it all up so no dust goes in there. Another thing to note with the aftermarket cam, you are going to need better valve springs now. When I built this engine originally, I had the Beehive valve springs that are rated up to, I think it was 600 thou lift. I think they're 516s or something like that they're called. But yeah, more than enough for the little cam that I'm going to put in there. Another option is also trunnion upgrades. They recommend that, anything up close to 600 thou. The cam I'm putting in there is not up that high. It's only a little cam, so standard trunnions should be alright. And I don't rev the piss out of it anyway. I like, you know, 6,500, 6,000 max, that's all it needs. The old huffer's out of steam by then anyway, so we'll see how it goes with the new cam though. It might make a bit more power up top, which is what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I'll get all the push rods out of this side, and I'm going to slap the rocker covers back on to keep it sealed up, and that bolt should be nice and cool. We can take that balancer off. Righto, remove harmonic balancer. Three-way puller on the inside there. There's three little tangs on the harmonic balancer. You hook it on, you leave the center bolt in there undone a little bit, you just wind it out. Righto, car up in the air. Harmonic balancer's off. You got two 10mm bolts up in here. Where's my finger there? They go up into the bottom of the timing case. The other on this side is there, you can see it. Get them out. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I gave everything a blow down and a clean up before undoing everything, just to try and keep it clean. I took this little air conditioner idler pulley out so I could get access to that 10mm bolt that was there. 8 10mm bolts in the front of the timing cover. Undo them, and then we can pry off the timing cover. We'll have a look underneath. Timing cover off. Put the harmonic, the crank bolt back in. Rotated it around until you see that stock indent there is lining up with the top of the timing chain tensioner there. It's a good indicator point. Just line those two up, and then when you put it back together, make sure they're lined up. So I'll undo those three 10mm bolts for the three cam bolts off there. Take that timing pulley off the cam, take the chain off there, let it all hang. Alright, timing chain sprocket is off. All looks pretty good. Show you what it looks like in here. Cam retaining plate, it's the next thing come off. Look to be 10mm bolts, 4, get the plate off. Backing plate's off. And you can see I've pushed a 8mm timber dowel in there that I've greased up. That holds the lifters, helps hold the lifters up. You just give the cam a rotate with your fingers. That'll push the lifters up into the plastic buckets. And then you push the dowels in through those oil galleries there, and they sort of interfere with the lifters and just triple make sure that they don't drop down when you pull the cam out. So yeah, I'll slide the other one in there, then I'm going to slide the cam out. Both dowels are in. Water pump bolt in the front of the cam ready to pull it out. Now it's going to prep the new to me but second hand cam. This is how it was stored, with a bit of cling wrap and some grease on it. Tiny bit of corner of the cam there hanging out, a little bit of rust, and I'll give that a hit with some emery tape. Other than that, super clean, but I'll clean all this up, bit of brake clean, and use a bit of assembly lube and get this cam ready to slide in. I don't really want, even though the dowels are in there, it's just for security, safety, you just do the swap real quick, don't let shit hang around, so it should be good. All right, live action. Just about gave up on that then, because nearly didn't have a video, because that tripod was frustrating. But yeah, it was slowly slide around. This motor hasn't done a lot of Ks, so I'm not surprised that it looks mint. New second handy, all lubed up. Give her a rotate. Happy days. She's in. Just put a bit of assembly lube on the face plate of the cam, ready for the new plate. I just thought I'd show you the resistance on these rods. The stuff all there. But now the cam's in, you can pull the rods out, because if the lifters do end up dropping, it won't matter anymore. So 8mm, remember? You can get it from Bunnings, just grease them up. But yeah, very easy. All right, reverse order. I've cleaned up the backing plate face there. Any old cooked on oil, make sure it's real clean. Use a bit of carby clean or brake clean. And then first lot of new parts. I got the Mellings new backing plate. I would have got AC Delco if they were available, but they were out of stock, so Melling will do. Come with a new plate. There's the old one, the old bolts. And you can feel the O-ring is smooth, you know what I mean? There's no compression left there, whereas the new one, there's definitely a lip, so that's the main oil passage. So you want that to seal up pretty well. So just throw a new one in, it's pretty cheap. It comes with new countersunk bolts that are a T40 Torx bit. So yeah, I'll throw that on and we'll torque it up. I'll have to get online and find out what the torque specs are. I can't remember what they are, but let's get it on. All right, quick search on Google. 18 pound-feet. Seems to be a new thing. People love the sound of the clicks. Just trip check. I'd go in pretty confident that these bolts countersunk into the plate to allow for double row chains, give it a bit more clearance. Either way, new retaining plate, good oil pressure. Can't go wrong. Next thing now is to fiddle around with the timing sprocket, or the cam sprocket, whatever you want to call it, and make sure we get it back in that same spot with the arrow pointing down. Managed to get that into position. Lines up beautifully. Let's go in and have a look. Yeah, you can see that little triangle thing faces the triangle on the guide, just like I took it off. So that's pretty good. I'm reusing the standard bolts with a tiny bit of Loctite on it. If it'll focus, it's like just a tiny bit. I don't coating it too much. And then yeah, torque them up. 18 feet-pounds as well. Gasket surface there for the timing cover's all been cleaned up. A bit of carby clean. I've got a new gasket on there. And I've put a little bit of RTV blue silicone in the corners there to seal the corners. Also obviously cleaned up the surfaces on the timing cover. L-ring part number. It's supposed to be who make the AC Delco gaskets anyway, so save a couple of bucks. Next thing is I'm going to put it on and just put the bolts in loosely. All the bolts are only not even finger tight, they're actually quite loose, so the timing cover can move a little bit. Because I like to let the harmonic balancer, when you install it, if it's all loose, I'll find that it just will center itself around that seal. Well, in theory that's what I think, and it's worked for me in the past, I'm going to run with it. Also, assembly lube on the seal, mainly for heat protection, because currently heating up that harmonic balancer pretty damn hot. And also rattle gun 24mm ready to go, and you slide it on there when it's red hot harmonic balancer. You'll slide it on and leave the whole way by itself, which is ideal. found its location, I'll start with the 2 bolts up from the bottom of the sump, but then I'll just torque them up first and then come back to the front, and it pretty much self-aligns, so that way there's nice even pressure around that front seal. 18 foot-pounds again. Don't want to miss out on the click freaks, for sure. Alright, let's move on to putting the new push rods in. Take the rocker covers or valve covers off, and new push rods ready to go. They're a Crow 7.4 inch with an 80 thou wall thickness, so they are a little bit thicker than stock. Here's a stock one, a little bit different profile on the end as well, a bit stronger. They are stronger because obviously higher lift camshaft puts a lot more pressure on the valve springs, so they say it's good practice to put a stronger push rod in for valve train stability. And they are also longer than standard. I think standard is 7.385 or 387, depends where you read it, I suppose. And the reason why they make it longer is because here's the standard cam. As the camshaft, this is the lobe for the valve, as the camshaft lift gets bigger, it can end up being bigger than the bearing circumference. No, bearing diameter. So what they do is they reduce the base circle, which is the bottom side here, smaller to allow for more lift. Now I'm not going to, explain it much more than that, but have a bit of a think about it. You'll see, like, if you reduce the size there, it actually makes the lift higher with a longer push rod. So they've got to stay within the height of the bearing. So dead standard dimension motor with this size aftermarket cam. They informed me that the 7.4s will be perfect, but we will double check the preload on the lifters after I get them in. Covers are off. Same thing again. Rotate them to the side, slide the new push rod in. I am going to put a little dab of assembly lube on the tops and bottoms, but before I do that, I'll blow them all out with compressed air, make sure there's nothing inside of them. Dab, then I'll start putting them in. You find when you slide the new push rods in, which I've done, and I've just got them resting lightly on the top of the lifters down in there, you'll actually have to push the lifter back out the bucket and back down onto the cam. And that's now the lifter back onto the cam. So they're actually pretty firm, so I probably could have done that cam change without those bits of dowel, but yeah, just gonna make sure you push on the push rods a little bit, push those lifters back down on the cam, obviously rotate the rockers back on, tighten it down. Now what I do is I actually roll the motor over until there's no preload on the rocker to torque them up. And I'm going to do all of them except for this front one here, and then this front one I'm actually going to test the preload, and I'll set up the tripod and we'll do that. Alright, let's check the lifter preload. I've got this first rocker here. The lifter is actually riding on the base circle of the cam, so it's achieving no lift. And what you want to do is you want to tighten that rocker up with your fingers until you experience no movement. It's got to be sort of like firm to the fingers. It's pretty good there. Then we want to count rotations until it reaches torque, which is 22 foot-pounds. Now I've only really got room to move in quarters here, so we'll just have to count the quarters. Hopefully it needs to be between, well, online, between 3/4. Some websites, some cam people say 1.5, 1.25. Let's just go, let's hope for about 1 turn. 3/4. It might be just under 1 full turn. So yeah, the shop who sold me the push rods definitely knows what they're talking about. So they're all torqued up, they're all done. Valve covers, let's put the valve covers, core packs back on. All right, valve cover, rocker covers, what have you, back on. They were 8 foot-pounds, torqued down. all the coil packs back on. There's obviously no water pumping that in there. I had to plug in a few places so it'll start. Yeah, probably take a bit, but cold start of the 85's never been great, it always seems to go second go, but yeah, we'll give it a go. Alright, so it needs a bit of a tune up with that cam in there now, but very happy with how quiet the lifters and the valve train still is with that new cam in there. I've moved forward, put new water pump on, new belts and new metal pulleys and bearings just as a service item. I'll throw the radiator and the cooler pipe back on and get some water in it so we can actually start it up for a decent amount of time and get off the cold start and see what it sounds like. I might have to make some adjustments with the computer. Righto guys, it's been a couple of weeks since I finished that cam swap, and yeah, all's going good. Had to do a fair bit of tuning on it with the HP tuners and the wideband. I'm not going to go into too much of that. I've got another video out there if you see our tune of HP tuners, if you really want to check it out. It's pretty basic. But yeah, all in all, down low idle, I definitely had to take a fair bit of fuel out. It was pretty grumpy, and but under power, I had to add fuel in up to 5% up the rev range. Obviously, if I'm putting fuel in it, we all know more fuel, more horsepower, I suppose. So it definitely feels more like it pulls better. It's hard with a butt dyno, but peak torque has definitely risen because obviously the power range of the aftermarket camshaft is a little bit higher. I think on this cam it's 2500 to 6500 or 2800 to 6500. But I remember with the stock cam and the way that turbo comes on at about 3000, the cam was like at peak torque, and then also the boost is piling on pretty hard with that little turbo at 3 grand. So it used to hit the tyre pretty hard, even in third gear at about 80 k's an hour with those 275s. It would haze them a little bit. I find that that's actually died down a little bit. It doesn't seem as bad, so I think that might be an advantage. But one thing I do know is when I did start leaning out the idle, it was less grumpy compared to previous videos. It sort of started to behave itself a little bit, and I don't know, it's sort of a little bit disappointing because I like it when they sound chunky. But leaned it out on the idle. I'll throw a clip in here of just the standard idle leaned out down in my carport when I was tuning it. But yeah, since then I've actually got in there and given it a little bit of ghost cam as well. Just, I don't know, my kids, they're little hoons, they love the chop, so I'll give it the old Corvette chop, and it sounds alright. I'll start up here in a sec, but yeah, I feel like with the cam power, it still doesn't pull in the top end like it should, and I think that's got a lot to do with the turbo that's on it. It's got a pretty small housing, it's got a pretty small exhaust, it's only 3-inch exhaust, so obviously the next part of this video we're going to upgrade the turbo and the exhaust, so to really open up that top end power. But I just wanted to go through that process of tuning it for a direct comparison, just to see how much more fuel it would actually require with that camshaft. So this next one will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how much more fueling it's going to need with the bigger turbo, and yeah, it'll be interesting. But it won't take long to throw this turbo on a couple of clips, and that'll be done, and we'll give it a bit of a test, and that'll be the end of the video. But let me whip this around, and I'll give it a start, and you can have a bit more of a listen to it with the ghost cam and everything like that. And yeah, let me know what you think. A lot of people hate ghost cam, but I don't know, how can you hate a LS chopping at the idle? I reckon it sounds good. All right, let's see how this old bloke tunes on his cold start. Give it a hit, dead cold. Fuel pump on. Like, that's all right, eh? That's dead cold. I actually made that a lot better by adding fuel, big shot of fuel before it starts on cold. Makes a big difference. It's funny, on this it sounds smoother on cold start. You wait until it drops in, there it goes. I don't know how that sounds on camera inside this shed, but yeah, even the tin on the shed roof's bloody rattling. So yeah, I reckon it suits it. Anyway, I don't want it to idle up too much and get too much temp in it. I better take the turbo off, so shut it down. Righto, new turbo, let's go. Alright, let me just butt in there. I ended up moving forward in this video and starting to fit the new turbo, and we ran into a few issues, so it really deserves its own episode. So I've cut it off, I'm butting in now. We'll end this video, we've finished up with that cam swap. You know, happy with how it sounds, happy with it making more power, moving the torque up higher and everything like that. But yeah, we'll wait for the next episode for the new turbo and all the issues that come with that, putting a bigger turbo on there. So let's end this episode there, and we'll pick it up on the next one. So, you know, have a good one. Bloody like and subscribe or what have you, and we'll see you again soon.